Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. All right, first up in D&D news, we don't really have any new D&D news. We have Strixhaven coming out in just a few short weeks here, so please make sure that you are getting your pre-orders in, making sure you have them set up wherever you are pre-ordering from. That is super important with the supply chain issues, particularly because this book is coming out around the holiday season. So make sure you got your pre-orders in and locked down so you can get that book on day one. Moving on to streams at 7 p.m. on twitch.tv/DND. We have the C team, so if you've been keeping up with that, go ahead and check that out. Otherwise, I don't really have any other streams. So if you have streams that you know of that I should be checking out, that I should be plugging on this, please let me know so that I can make sure I add them in here. And then one little announcement from me, coming up on Saturday, I am going to be hitting my 1 year milestone mark of putting out content onto the internet, November 20th, so I'm really excited about that. I want to, sometime next week, put out one of these that's sort of like a Q&A kind of thing. So if you have any questions, anything you want to know, anything you want to hear me talk about, please let me know. Put it in comments, send it to me via, I don't know, carrier pigeon or something, because I want to get as many questions as I can and make a full episode out of things that you guys want to know, that you want to hear me talk about. So hit me up with that. Then today for T&D, moving right along, I have my greatest uncle in the universe mug that I got for, again, pet sitting someone's rabbit, filled with some throat comfort tea because the changing of seasons has really done a number on my voice. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but there is a whole lot of burn happening right in the back there. So that is helping me out today. But with all that said and done, let's get into what we are actually talking about today, which is different tips for running D&D online. I have 5 of them here for you guys. So let's go through them real quick. I'll sort of elaborate as I go here. And we'll talk through each one of them. First up, the first thing that I think is important to recognize about playing D&D online is that it is a different format. And so the first thing that I recommend, that I think is important to do, is to slow down your story. The tip number 1 is slow down your story. You as a DM have put in a lot of work into getting this story put together. Maybe you're pushing through it when everybody's at the table. There's this energy. You can sort of like bounce right off of each other without any sort of issue. When you get to the internet, there is going to be a lag. People will talk over each other and then freeze and then stop talking. And even if they like get sort of over that, it's hard to try and listen to 2 people at the same time when they're coming through the same input, like headphones or something like that, as opposed to when there's one person here and one person here. Even that is difficult. So just trying to keep track of everything definitely takes a little bit more focus and energy. So slow down your story. Give yourself some more time to actually let things sort of like develop and blossom within the story, because it is going to take longer to actually get to the point that you're trying to get it to. And I think that is something that is really important to recognize, that playing D&D online, it's not going to be like this slow slog through everything now, but you have to actually just stop for a minute. Like, let everything sort of sink in, because you don't have the ability to hand your players visuals, hand your players these sort of things. It's harder to communicate body language and stuff like that when you are sitting and you're just this box that is just a screen that people are looking at, as opposed to a whole person that is sitting there at the table with everybody else. So slow down your story. Let it sort of percolate. You've put a lot of work into it. They have put a lot of work into it. It is a collaborative thing. There are obviously times for when it needs to pick up speed. It needs to move faster. But even those moments where it is moving faster, you are going to need to be moving slower than if you were all at the same table together. If you're all at the same table together, you can get things going, get things moving. But there is a literal barrier to communication in the screen and webcam that comes with a computer. And so you just have to be cognizant of that and slow down what you are doing a little bit so that you can actually make it through the story together in a meaningful way. In the same vein as that one, tip number 2 is to focus on character/player engagement. A lot of times as Dungeon Masters, when we're at a table, at least for me, I do these like sweeping descriptions of things. I will like shoot off different things to each of the individual players as we're going. and just sort of keep things moving, keep things rolling, and that sort of thing. And that is great for online play if you can bounce around like that and get people like constantly engaged in it. Because if your players check out, it is so much harder to get them back into it than if you're sitting around a table. It's hard to check out when you're sitting at a table if you know don't have like your phone in front of you or something like that, because everything that is happening is right in front of you. In an online setting, everything that is happening is on a box in front of you, and the rest of the world is around you. And so you kind of have to be well aware of the fact that there are going to be distractions happening everywhere, just everywhere. And so you need to try and focus in on getting characters slash players engaged. I have found my games to become more roleplay heavy as we have gone through the transition into online, either from my moving or COVID or playing with people in different states or countries. Any of those things, it is harder to run a like combat sort of situation when you are online, simply by nature of the fact that there is the barrier that is there. And so keeping people engaged via roleplay, having them talk to you, talk to each other, is a really important skill to be able to like keep things moving in terms of the story, because as long as your players are engaged, the story will be able to move forward. And again, going back to point one, this is a story that you're going to have to slow down a little bit. So do everything in your power to focus in on character and player engagement more specifically than necessarily maybe the track that you were going before, which might have been a little bit more fighty, a little bit more like grand narrative cinematic kind of thing, just because of the fact that the circumstance in which they are existing and playing has changed. Maybe you're in a quiet room with nothing else going on, but they are, at their dining room table with their kids in the kitchen, or their animals running up and down the stairs or something like that. So just be cognizant of that and do your best to actually focus in on that engagement. And with the engagement will come enjoyment. That they kind of go hand in hand. Next up, number 3 is to invest in some kind of online service. There are a whole bunch of different options for this. I mean a few different things by this. If you are looking to continue to run, large scale, like gritty combat kind of things, I definitely recommend looking into something like Foundry or Roll20, where you can have like maps up, people can control their own little tokens and stuff like that. Those are really, really phenomenal for that. You can play music through them, everything like that. Most computers, at least nowadays, will have some kind of like video conference thing supported on it, whether it's like Skype or Zoom or Google Hangouts or something like that. So if you are a more roleplay heavy or theater of the mind type of group, you can work with that better. The other one that I have written down here is D&D Beyond or something adjacent to that. It is definitely an investment to get the full suite on D&D Beyond. But in my experience, at least, with the fact that I run two different games right now for people in different states, as well as playing in another game, maybe more with people in different states, as well as a bunch of one-shots, having the full suite online is super helpful. It's a great way to like centralize everything. And as a dungeon master, having access to all of your players' character sheets is a kind of vital thing, especially with me who plays with newer players or people who are learning different classes and stuff like that for the first time. Being able to pull it up next to me and be able to click through and point at, like, find stuff that they're looking at, because I can't just lean over the DM screen now and point to where the thing is on their character sheet like I used to be able to. So having that is definitely a plus and definitely something that I would recommend. As I mentioned, it is a cost to get. Like a high cost to get, especially as they keep pushing more books out. So maybe you split it up among the table, or like you just start picking up books here and there. It comes with the basic rules. You can go on there and sort of mess around with it and get a feel for different stuff. And it comes with a bunch of other tools as well. But I would check that out. You can load character sheets into Roll20 and that sort of thing. So if you are strictly paperback, or I guess they're hardback books, kind of person, you can load all of your stuff, type it straight into the character sheets, and load it onto Roll20 so that people have access to it there, but it's not like interactable then. But it does work just the same for being able to help find things and stuff like that. Alternatively, you can just have them take a picture of it and send it to you, and then you can sort of help guide them around via that way. I don't know. It's up to you. It's your table. It's your investment, whatever you want to do. I have found that D&D Beyond is like my best friend in doing so. And I've messed around with Roll20. I've messed around with Foundry. Neither of them have been my preference, but I know that they are very, very popular. I instead have an app on my iPad called Encounter Plus that has worked out great for me. I can pull maps or draw maps up and then fit them to a grid and put tokens in and stuff like that. I have to control it all, so it's a little bit more on my plate, but it was also a relatively low cost entry sort of thing. I think it was like $7 to get the pro package that let me cast it onto my screen. So it's not that bad. So yeah, that tip number 3 was invest in some kind of online service to help you. Additionally, if you're looking for something else in that general area and you're talking about like an actual interface sort of thing, like a web call kind of thing, I have found that StreamYard, which is a web-based streaming sort of thing, you don't need to stream it to stuff, and you can get a free account on it, has been very, very helpful for me. It is the one that my computer can connect to the easiest. So check it out, maybe. I don't know. It's up to you, honestly. I don't know. Moving on to number 4. This one is big, and it was something that I fought for a little while and eventually have fallen into, and it has made my life a lot easier. Tip number 4 is to experiment with new techniques and different ways to do things, which seems obvious, but I really wanted to be able to run D&D the way that I had been running D&D. I didn't want anything to change when I moved to online. I really liked the way that I was able to run it in person, the way that I was running it in person. I thought that we had a really good flow and a really good sort of vibe, and those first few sessions were rough trying to keep it running that way. At least on my end. I hope my players didn't feel the same way, but I'm sure that they noticed some of the pretty hefty hiccups that I had going on there. So just try some stuff out, right? And be honest with your players about it if you're going to. Sit down and be like, guys, I'm trying this out today. If it doesn't work, we'll move on from it, but I want to see how it goes. Maybe it's playing music through Discord or something like that while the game is also going on a different stream service. I don't know. Give something a shot. I have written under that a little bullet point that says give yourself permission to fail. And I think that is one of the biggest things that we, as Dungeon Masters especially, need to get past. You have to be able to say, okay, I'm going to do some stuff. It's not going to work out right. That's how it goes sometimes. That's how it goes in life. I mean, my like day job is 80% me failing and figuring out what I did wrong and then fixing it. Maybe not 80%, more like 60, but it's still a lot of it. So if you come into it with the mindset of like, okay, I'm gonna screw this up. I know I'm gonna screw this up. I don't know how I'm gonna screw it up yet, but I know I'm gonna screw it up. Let's figure it out as we go here. Then you are setting yourself up for more success, even though you are anticipating failing. So give yourself permission to fail in those situations, because the only way to really learn is to fail and to see what doesn't work so that you can refine what does work. So just give yourself a shot. And then my 5th and final tip for running Dungeons and Dragons online, there obviously are a bunch more than just 5, but the 5 that I think are most important. Number 5 is to give up the DM seat once or twice. A lot of Dungeon Masters started off as players. A lot of people who are running games now started off on the other side of the screen in one capacity or another. Give up the DM seat for a time or two. It doesn't have to be a long time if you're running a long-running campaign. Just like ask a player if they want to run a one-shot or something, or ask to join in a one-shot in somebody else's game or to guest play in someone else's game. Because there is... when you started DMing, you had to learn how to be on that side of the screen, right? Because you had never done it before. Well, it's the same sort of thing because you're in a different situation now. So in my mind, they are like cousins of each other, playing at the table and playing on a computer. They're two related but different things entirely. So over in tabletop world, you have been a player, you've been a DM, you've got those things down. Over in online world, you're learning how to DM again, kind of, because you do have to kind of reassess everything you're doing. But you also need to be reminded of how it is on the player side. You need to sit back and be a player and see how things work, and then you can help use that to inform your dungeon mastering style online. It's something that you just kind of have to trust someone else to take the reins for a little bit, and so that you can sit back and relearn that other seat at the table, because now that seat is at a computer instead of at the table, which is a really, really sort of uncomfortable thing a lot of the time, but I think it's a really important piece to actually do, because if you don't do it, then you're flying blind, kind of, honestly. There's no super good way to assess how things are going on the other side if you've never been on the other side. That it's something that I always recommend to newer players or newer DMs or something, that early on anyway, like try both sides of the screen just to get a feel for how the other one works. The same thing applies here. And I don't think that the newer ones are the ones that I am trying to like get that through to on this one. I think it's the vets that have been doing this for a long time, who have been around a table for years and years, and then suddenly they have to go online and they're like, oh, what do I do? Shoot. Be on the other side of the screen for a little bit. The DM screen, not the computer. You're going to be on the other side of the computer screen. That is sort of a given. Not the point. So give up the DM seat once in a while. That is my fifth tip. That is what I have to say on that one. And that is everything that I have to talk to you guys about today. Thank you so much for tuning in and making me part of your daily routine. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much, in particular, to my patrons. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. If you want to support the show and are able to, there is a link to my Patreon in the description of this video. I would really, really appreciate it. Every little bit of support helps. And we are coming up on our goal for being able to create this show as a podcast. I'm really excited for us to actually hit that in the near future here, because I'm excited to get this pushed to those platforms as well. A little bit of an update. I will not be posting on Thursday or Friday of this week. I am going to be out of the state, in a different state. I'm going to go see some friends, go see a show, and then come back to keep working. But I will be MIA on Thursday and Friday, so I will be doing the full stream rundown for the entire week tomorrow morning. So I guess we're gonna kind of just sort of go for that one, which is why the Q&A thing is going to be next week. Again, if you have questions that you want answered, throw them in comments, throw them on a bird, and send it to me. I don't really know. Figure out a way to get it to me, and I'll figure it out. But as I mentioned, that is everything I have to talk to you guys about today. I will see you tomorrow, but until next time, keep on rolling.